Welcome back to Chaos Corner. It's your old buddy, the guardian of chaos, Big Daddy, and I tell it like it is. I'll say that to say this, coming to you live to tape, 25 feet below the surface of the earth here at Chaos headquarters. It's early on a Monday morning. It's the last week of March. Baseball season is right around the corner as we wrap up March Madness. It couldn't get any better than this. Fans, we're back for another special episode of Chaos Corner. And you know what that must be. A complete idiot's guide to the world of pro wrestling. A match made in heaven. Written over 2 decades ago by Captain Lou Albano and Burt Randolph Sugar. A match made in heaven. Fans, you're not going to want to miss this episode. If you go back to the network, where we have almost 2,000 videos uploaded to the YouTube channel here, Guardian of Chaos, we just came off of the chapter, All the Right Moves, Inner and Outer Workings in the Ring. Today, we cover Bonecrushers and Backbreakers. All the Right Moves, Chapter 19, as I said, written over 2 decades ago. Fans, it applies to well over way back then to current day. And remember, as I always say, you can't get to where you're going or even where you are unless you recognize and remember where you have been. That doesn't mean get stuck in the past, live in the past. That means look in the rearview mirror. Pay homage to those who have come before you and look in the windshield, full speed ahead. Follow me on all social media platforms. Go to your laptop or your mobile device and punch in Guardian of Chaos here on the YouTube channel. On Twitter, in real time, it's at Big Daddy G.O.C. and the G.O.C. stands for the Guardian of Chaos. On Instagram, it's the Guardian of Chaos. On Facebook, there's 2 accounts. That's right, there's 2. J Brony, you get it, Jabroni, and Prodigio Fidelis El Guardian in honor of my heritage. Follow me on Gitter, Gab, Truth Social, Rumble. I cover it all in the IWC because it's me. It's the G.O.C. Grab a snack, grab a beverage. There's no kickboxing classes going on today. There's no grappling and MMA. There's nobody in the lounge upstairs. There's nobody in the executive boardroom. That's right. We're here down in the bunker. It's you and me, the G.O.C. But before we get started and I do my little opening monologue here, I'm not sure if I'll break this up into 2 parts in this chapter or just 1. But sit back and relax because it's going to be at least 30 minutes, maybe 45. Who knows what's going to happen here on Chaos Corner? Because remember, in order to get respect, you have to start with respecting yourself. Once you do that, you open other people's minds to respecting you. Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Because remember, there's 3 types of people in this world. Those who don't know what happened, those who wonder what happened, and people like the G.O.C. Big Daddy that make things happen. Stand by. Grab your coffee. Grab your H2O. Maybe get a little egg sandwich or something like that. Well, kick back, man. Don't go anywhere. And just to let you know, I am a little under the weather. Feeling okay, but it's going around a little under the weather here in 2023 with the G.O.C. But I do have the house blend coffee along with the espresso. I'm trying to cut off the sugar-free Red Bull and trying to mix it up, if you know what I mean, fans. Do you hear the sounds here in Chaos Corner? Something's going on. All right, fans, let's get started. Here on a Monday morning, sit back and relax. Class is in session. Chapter 19 on A Complete Idiot's Guide to the World of Pro Wrestling. Again, if you could put up with my linguistic skills, I would greatly appreciate it here. I am a college-educated man. In this chapter, classic wrestling holds is what we'll go over. Modern moves and techniques and the favorite moves of the top grapplers, aka wrestlers. Now, I'm not sure if we'll get into all that. Like I said, I'm not sure if we'll break this up into two parts. Uh, I want to bring this to you, the fans. This is my stress reliever in this crazy world and everything that's going on. And hopefully, I can bring a little levity to you fans out there. So, here we go. And again, I won't be reading verbatim. Remember, this is one man, unique, unedited, unscripted, no paywalls, no Patreon, no super chats. I'm not asking you for nothing except to be here, leave a comment, subscribe, and hit that like button and get us in the algorithm. Smash that fucking button. That's more money to put in the tip jar for my granddaughter. I don't like the cuss to get over. Here we go. It's not a bad day out today. It looks like we're going to be in for one heck of a weather week. And I just want to give my thoughts and prayers and condolences to everyone out there suffering through all whatever you may be going through physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Look to the big man, walk in faith, and we're all going to be okay. Just to stay positive. Live in faith, not fear. That's just my little message from the G.O.C. I don't like to push it out there. You know, I'm very spiritual. Jesus Christ is coming back soon. Don't be caught dead without him. Let's move on. When he first came into baseball, the great sports promoter Bill Veeck, of course, of the old Chicago White Sox, saw the game as more than just a game. He saw it as entertainment. So he gussied up the staid old game with bat days, exploding scoreboards, and even a midget, all in the name of entertainment. Wrestling was no different. For generations, it plodded along with matches that went on interminably. Old-timers like George Hackenschmidt yearned for those good old days, reminiscing about the past on a 1950s radio show, the fabled Russian Lion, regaled the listening audience with tales of his 4-hour draw with the terrible Turk and how if certain holds were held for as long as 50 minutes. He sighed and said, that was wrestling. What Hackenschmidt was talking about were the matches of the first couple of decades of the 20th century. Legitimate scientific matches called shoots, in which a true hammerlock could break a guy's arm and a step-over toe hold could do the same to an ankle or a leg. When wrestling was gussied up, as Veeck had done with baseball, new and more important crowd-pleasing holds were added to the repertoire of the classic ones. And in this chapter, we'll tell you about all of them. From those dating back to Greco-Roman style wrestling to the modern ones in use today. Remember, this was written well over 2 decades ago and applies here in 2023. You see, we have new camera, new lighting, new sound system. Let's see what happens here. I'm always getting cut off and kayfabed by Alexa. Alexa, higher the volume. Kayfabed again? Alexa, higher the volume. I feel like I'm on the moon. Kind of crazy here at Chaos Corner. Let's move on here. Chapter 19, A Match Made in Heaven. Captain Lou Albano, Burt Randolph Sugar, and yours truly. No offense to all you idiots out there. I'm just trying to teach you my over 5 decades as an agent, a scout, a historian, a researcher, a fan, a smark, a mark. That's right, I said it, a mark. In my over 3 decades in pro wrestling as a manager, a sweeper of floors, seller of tickets, putting up the ring, whatever you want to call it, from pillar to post and coast to coast and border to border, the G.O.C. has done it all, including still today, current day, at my home at Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling. All right, fans.
Out here in the wilderness, you've got to be tough to survive.
You do have to be tough to survive. The 4 basic wrestling holds. Remember the timeline here? Back in 1948, the article in Ring magazine listed the most effective holds in the history of wrestling. These were Strangler Lewis's headlock, Joe Stetcher's body scissors, Frank Gotch's toe hold, and Jim Browning's flying scissors. That was it. 4 plain vanilla holds, all of which dated back to the beginning of the sport and even before. 4. No more. But something happened to professional wrestling on its way to television. 1950s. New holds and moves that went beyond the stalk your opponent to his knees variety. Now there were flashy moves like Jim Londos and the airplane spin, Jumpin' Joe Savoldi's dropkick, and Gus Sonnenberg's flying tackle. There'd be more to come. In this chapter, you'll learn the moves of the pros, but before we take you through the recently developed holds and moves, let's run through the classic holds, the ones that are part and parcel of every wrestler's repertoire. So fans, maybe we'll break this up into several different shorter shows here on Chaos Corner. We're after the opening monologue. We're about 11 minutes in here right now, according to the time clock and the ticker here in Chaos Corner. And maybe we'll break this up into like 5 different sections to push out the content to keep it lower for you guys to watch. What do you think about that? Well, ponder it, sit back, leave a comment, email me, inbox me, and we'll continue. A quick caveat here at Chaos Corner. While modern wrestling is highly acrobatic, classic wrestling depends on effective submission holds and pins. But before we talk about them in detail, 2 notes. First of all, many of these holds, such as the Picket 4 and Figure 4 leg lock, that's right, let that sink in, go by several different names. That's why today everybody wants to adapt all these different names and put their spin on it when it's just a regular hold from back in the day. You get it, right? Secondly, you must keep in mind that these moves are very, very, very dangerous, and that's why I've been saying this for 30 years. Don't try this at home. Long before anybody else said it. The wrestlers you see on TV are trained athletes and professionals who've taken many years to master them. With long, intensive training, do not, and I repeat, do not try them at home, as I've already said. Or you're asking for a quick trip to the hospital. Great wrestlers usually have 1 or 2 holds they're experts at. And today it's a little bit more, I get it. But it's not unusual for a wrestler to have one favorite hold to finish a match with. Again, I get it, we're in 2023. Remember when this book was written almost 25 years ago? But it still applies today. And maybe the business from AEW to the WWE to MLW, NWA, New Japan, Impact, Ring of Honor, a PAPW, maybe everybody can learn a little bit by going back to the future, if you know what I mean. Entertainment personified. Let's go to a little Wrestling Rules WrestleMania. Some early wrestlers had so much confidence in their holds that they offered bounties for anyone who could break them. For example, Nanjo Singh perfected his impressive Cobra hold. Singh had so much confidence that he put up $1,000 for anyone who could escape its grip. Nanjo's boast was met with a vengeance by Jim Londos. In fact, Londos not only beat the Cobra hold, he tossed Nanjo from the ring in the process. The Cobra hold was extremely effective, but it wasn't unbeatable, as we know, aka Sergeant Slaughter. Yeah, that's right. Slaughter put the Cobra hold on me too. And I'll never forget the North Haven Fair, myself and Ron Zombie against you, Sarge. And of course, that legendary match with me and King Kong Bundy against you, Slaughter. Don't think I've forgotten. You're owed a receipt. Retribution will be coming, Slaughter. Old man or not, the G.O.C. doesn't forget. Who were the men and what were their cherished holds? Let's find out. 6-time world heavyweight champion Lou Thesz had plenty of tools in his war chest, but his favorite was his crotch hold and spin. Let that sink in. Antonio Rocca, whose exploits you read about in this chapter, in this book, in chapter 7, we already covered it, was noted for his use of barefoot flying kick. Then there was the Indian deathlock that Don Eagle liked to use. Primo Carnera used his bulky body effectively with a massive body slam. Mike Mazurki made his figure 4 scissors lock a piece of wrestling history. The Canadian Avalanche was a trademark of Whipper Billy Watson. All of these men and their moves have charted a piece in modern wrestling. Dick Raines was building a fire one day, and as he broke kindling over his knee, realized that a similar action would work in the ring, thus inspiring the backbreaker. School is in session, fans. The half Nelson and the flying body scissors were used extensively by Hollander Henry Piers. Do your research, do your due diligence. This is History 101. The flying head scissors was Frankie Taylor's move of choice. Body slams and drop kicks were the painful ways that Marshall Lewis dealt with his opponents. Ken Ackler's abdominal stretch was barred in many states due to the injuries he caused with it. When was the last time you seen any of these people in the 2023 grapplers, workers, talents, superstars use an abdominal stretch? Well, I don't know. I'm asking you. Cayman Kudo borrowed from jiu-jitsu to create his arm strangle. Arm strangle. You get that right. Vern Gagne had a rolling leg split that he liked to use. The creation of no less than 40 wrestling holds is credited to Frank Sexton, but his favorite was the giant swing. Buddy Rogers, an unforgettable figure, used a pile driver to stop his competitors. Ben Morgan, Jim Austeri both favored the knee breaker. Jacques of Spain preferred a bouncing backbreaker. Go back and research and Google or DuckDuckGo, whatever search engine you use, and look at your history and the names of the grapplers from the 30s, 40s, and 50s that I'm talking about. Before we go into the present day and the golden era of the 70s, 80s, and then into the attitude and the aggression era of the 90s, into the 21st century, and here in current day, 2023. And let's face it, over the last 20 years, pro wrestling has left a lot to be desired. Good, bad, or ugly, right, wrong, or indifferent, and I'll give you the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yeah, I know. There's people talking in the background here. There's even commercials. How crazy is this on Chaos Corner? Let me have a little sip here. The espresso is unbelievable. Speaking of sponsors, I only have one, although I work for PAPW, Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling.com, on all social media. Go check out my buddy, Mr. Hempel Stillskin, at sweetheel.com. Sweet Heel CBD for all your CBD needs. I don't go a day without it. As a man who's in the over 50 demographic, the old man brand, if you will, a two-time Hall of Famer in sports entertainment, pro wrestling, that's right. That's me. I don't go a day without it. Whether it's balms, tinctures, lotions, flour, there isn't anything you can't get from Mr. Hempel Stillskin and Sweet Heel CBD at sweetheel.com. Locally owned, locally grown, one of the first here in the Constitution State. CBD is the wave of the future for all ailments, from your pets to sports athletes and everyone in between, to even grandma. That's right, Mr. Hempel Stillskin, Sweet Heel CBD. Don't you dare miss that one. Again, it's the wave of the future in sports and in health and in wellness. Hit up my boy, Mr. Hempel Stillskin. Cheers to Sweet Heel. A little espresso. I know I already said it, but bear with me, man. We might cut this up into two parts. Somebody leave on the faucet? Somebody turn on the water fountain? I feel like I have to go to the bathroom. What's going on here? Boy, I tell you, talk about pep in a step. All right, fans, thanks for being here. Now, before we get on to classic submission holds here on Chaos Corner, do you think we should cut this up into a couple of different parts and do like we did on the last chapter and maybe make it into two different sections so we don't bog everybody down? What do you think? I think we're going to do that. So stay here. Don't go anywhere. We'll put this into part 1 and part 2. All the right moves, Bonecrushers and Backbreakers. It doesn't get any better than that. All right, fans, let's continue here. Classic submission holds. There are two main types of holds, pins and submission holds. In a pin, a wrestler is put down so that his or her shoulders touch the mat. Hello, McFly. Anyone home? Bueller? Anyone? Bueller? But some holds are so effective that Although they don't constitute an actual pin, the wrestler in the hold has no chance of extricating himself. Here are some of the classic submission holds. The abdominal stretch. Standing to the side of your opponent, you hook one of his legs, you hook his left leg with your right, or his right leg with your left. At the same time, you've wrapped up one of your arms in front of his body and pulled his upper arm behind your head. The abdominal stretch. The Achilles tendon hold. That's what they called it back in the day. You figure it out. Come on, let's see how smart you are. With your opponent on his back, you grab his leg so that his foot is wedged in your armpit. You slide that arm under your opponent's knee, then lean back while applying a leg scissor lock. Come on, let me hear some answers. Ankle lock. Again, your opponent is on his back. Grab his leg, twisting the ankle, then go to the mat and apply a scissor lock to his leg. The arm bar. Take the opponent's arm with one hand at the wrist, the other gripping behind the elbow. Then hold it fully extended, applying pressure in opposite directions at the wrist and elbow. Lock the joint so that it can't be bent. The backbreaker. Once your opponent has been forced to the mat face down and you place both your knees on his back, put one arm around his neck, the other around one or both of his legs. Lean back until you're lying on your back. Your opponent is lifted in the air. Pull back on his neck and legs, forcing him to bend backwards. The bear hug. Like it sounds. Facing your opponent, you wrap your arms around his body and squeeze. This move is used more effectively and most effectively by the bigger and stronger wrestlers like Andre the Giant. The Boston Crab, this can be set up in two different ways. With the opponent on his back, grab both his legs. Holding them, you step over his body, turning him onto his stomach, then lean back to apply pressure. With the opponent on his stomach, grab his legs and pull backward. The camel clutch. This is the Steiner recliner used by Scotty Steiner. Or earlier than that, the Sheiky, the Iron Sheik. You get it, right? With your opponent face down on the mat, sit on his back and slide your arms under his legs. Apply a chin lock and then pull back. The chin lock. With your above opponent either sitting or lying on his stomach and you stand or kneeling above, link your hands under his chin and pull back. The chokehold. One of my favorites. Grab the opponent by the throat with one or both hands and just choke the shit out of him. The claw hold. This comes in two versions. The abdominal, made famous by the Von Erichs. Grab the opponent's stomach muscles with your fingers and dig in. The head. Grip your opponent's face in your hand and dig in. The cloverleaf leg lock. With your opponent on his back, you lock his legs into a figure four with his arms and place his straight leg under his armpit. Step over him, rolling him onto his stomach like maybe for a Boston Crab, I would think. Then lean back, a cross face. Wrap one arm across your opponent's face and pull back. This is not a submission hold itself, but is usually applied in conjunction with one. Bob Backlund is known for this. The cross-face chicken wing submission hold. The crucifix knee bar. Your opponent is down on his back. You apply a standing scissor lock around his leg, holding the leg, fall to the mat just to his side, landing at a 90-degree angle to his body. The figure four leg lock. Beautiful. While your opponent is on his back, you grab one leg and bend it sideways across the other and behind one of your own. Take your notes, write this down. This forms a figure four of your opponent's legs. Holding his straight leg, you fall backwards to the mat, securing his bent leg in place by placing your free leg on top of the ankle. Bingo. Front face lock. Standing face to face with your opponent, you grab his head and tuck it under your arm, locking his head in place by squeezing it against your side. You reach across your chest, around his head, and grab his face, squeezing it. The full Nelson. Standing behind your opponent, place both your arms under his and lock your hands behind the neck of his opponent, behind the back of his neck. Apply pressure by pressing down on the neck. Hello? Half crab. This can be set up in two different ways, as we said about several maneuvers before this. With the opponent on his back, grab one of his legs and step over his body, turning him on his stomach, pull back, thereby applying the pressure on his back. Pull it back. If he's on his stomach, grab one of his legs and pull backward, again applying pressure to his back. The hammerlock. Hard to say who invented this one. Probably some schoolyard bully. Grab one of your opponent's arms and pull it behind his back, continuing to pull while applying pressure to the elbow. The headlock. Pretty simple. Stand to your opponent's side, facing in the same direction he's facing. Wrap your arm around his dome piece and apply pressure, increasing the force of it by using both arms. The head vice. Place a hand on either side of your opponent's head and squeeze. The Indian deathlock with your opponent on his back, cross his leg as if he was sitting Indian style. Then place your knee on his shins and apply pressure on his knees. The neck twist. Your opponent is sitting and you're standing behind him. Push down on one side of his head while gripping his jaw and pulling upward. The neck twist. Your opponent is sitting and you're standing behind him. Push down on one side of his head while gripping his jaw and pulling upward. These are unbelievable maneuvers. I also learned them in 25 years behind the walls, being a doorman, bouncer, private security, bounty hunter from coast to coast and border to border. I've already said it. This gets me excited. My blood is boiling. Can you feel the pressure? Can you feel the pain? Nerve hold. While restraining your opponent in an arm bar, apply a nerve pinch to the neck, or there's several other nerve holds that you can learn. And fans, get in there, get in the ring, get into training school, and practice your maneuvers. You can cripple someone in reality, in a shoot, in a work, and whatever you want to do it. And this is perfect for self-defense in the streets. Sleeper hold. Rowdy Roddy Piper perfected this move. Place one arm across your opponent's throat and the other up against the side of his head, then lock your hands. This cuts off the supply of the blood to your opponent's head and will render him unconscious. Complete the move by stepping one leg across your opponent's body to hold it down while pulling upward on the head. Once the hold is completely applied, slowly tighten your grip at the side of your opponent's head. Fans, be careful applying this one. This could be life or death. The spinning cobra clutch. Apply a step over toe hold and turn your opponent over onto his stomach. Then apply a cross face hold. Step over toe hold. Your opponent is on his back and you're facing him. Holding one of his legs, if you've grabbed the right leg, you step around with your own right leg, so you've wrapped his around your left leg. You then apply pressure to the knee and leg you're holding. This is usually a setup for the figure 4 leg lock, or you can spin your opponent around for a submission. Plenty of ways to utilize this. This is mat technician. This is ring work. This is Pro Wrestling 101 and what you need to learn. The stump puller, one of my favorites. Stand behind a sitting opponent. Straddle his neck, grabbing one of his legs. Pull up on one leg, stretching his hamstring while compressing his neck. The surfboard. With your opponent on his stomach, stand on the back of his knees or his thighs and lock his ankles behind your legs. Grab both his arms from behind and lean backward until you're sitting down. This pulls your opponent up onto his knees. From this position, you can apply a chin lock, and this would be called a surfboard chin lock. And then, of course, the old standby, the wrist lock. While your opponent is lying on his back, you lay across his body. With one hand, grab the arm nearest to his head, then increase the pressure by reaching through his bent arm to grab the hold with your other hand, pulling upward to put pressure on the elbow and wrist. Fans, those are some of the classic holds that, when applied right, will get you through any situation in the ring or outside of the ring. A couple of different sidebars that I missed that we will bounce back to here before we cut this off on part 1 and go to part 2 of Bonecrushers and Backbreakers. All the right moves with the G.O.C. Big Daddy. Let's go to Bert's Corner. Lex Luger's famous human torture rack was really effective on the backbreaker theme, an effective variation of that theme, if you guys remember correctly, and how Luger did it. He lifted his opponent up onto his shoulders, facing upward. Luger then hooks an arm around the neck and the other around the legs and presses downward on each side, forcing his opponent's back to bend against his neck. Let that marinate. A full Nelson can be very dangerous hold, as we all know. A la Ken Patera, Superstar Billy Graham, so on and so forth. How many people use the full Nelson? Apply too much pressure and you could break your opponent's neck. Bingo. The suplex is a very popular hold and has been throughout pro wrestling's history. Used alone or in combination with other moves, it's one of the wrestling's most versatile holds, a la Captain Lou's Corner, here on Chaos Corner. Before we get on to part two, we'll cover in the next part, and don't go anywhere, we're bouncing right back here, so don't go anywhere. We're going to cover a plethora of pins, acrobatics, and aerialists. More classic holds we will break down, modern moves, and we'll see what happens from there, fans. I don't want to keep you here all morning, all day, but we still have a lot to go through. Don't go anywhere. The G.O.C. is coming right back here on Chaos Corner. Don't you dare miss it.